Koudelka is a charming hidden gem amongst PS1 titles. It's a fantasy horror RPG that has adopted popular features from the time era and used them in a way that wasn't commonly seen. Released worldwide in 2000 by Infogrames and developed by Saknoff, Koudelka was met with mixed reviews. Some praised its art style and use of horror, others criticised its slow pacing grid battle system. Opinions are like arseholes though, we've all got one and it's subjective. So let's look at the first 2 hours or so of this game and you can decide what your arsehole's opinion is. Wait, did I say that right? The game opens up with a cinematic of Koudelka infiltrating what we later to be discovered to be called Nemerton Monastery in 1898 Wales. Already I can see why the praise for the art style. For the 2000s these are some very pretty and enhanced graphics. The way the fabric flows, the lighting and the models themselves. Granted they aren't perfect. Some of the movements are stiff, and the hair sometimes looks like something you'd find on a Lego man, but it's still very impressive. Koudelka breaks into the monastery and finds a wounded man. He mistakes her for an angel and asks her not to take him until he takes care of some unfinished business. Koudelka responds by mocking him until she is ambushed by the monster he was trying to shoot behind her. The man takes a shot but is too injured to aim, so he throws the gun to Koudelka and the first battle of the game starts. This being an RPG, tutorials aren't going to be present. Best keep that instruction book handy. Remember those? They used to be a thing. If you have played turn-based RPGs before, then you will know how most of the battle system works already. A small menu appears and you choose an option. But to go into more detail, a menu appears and you get to choose one of the following options to carry out. Action allows you to choose between attacking with your weapon, casting a spell that has a 1-turn delay, using an item you got in your inventory, and weapon allows you to change your weapon mid-fight. So you can do one of these actions and also take a move action. The move option allows you to move to a space on your side of the field. Notice I said your side. That's because there is a mechanic in the fights that means that players cannot walk past the closest enemy to your side of the grid, and vice versa. So no surrounding or flanking opponents, but at least they can't do it to you either. Wait is basically end turn, and status shows your character's status scores. Shoot the monster 2 or 3 times and it falls down dead. After the fight you are awarded experience, potentially items, weapons and armour, and after important fights your party will learn a new spell. Now, some of you may be comparing this to Final Fantasy because of the battle system and the graphics style. Well, fun fact, the creator of the game is Hiroki Kikuta, a former member of Square who formed Saknoff with other team members from Square, so it's only natural you would make that comparison because of the Final Fantasy elements. But what if I told you there was elements of Resident Evil in this game too? After the first fight, you gain control of Koudelka so you can walk around the monastery freely. As a Resi fan, from this camera angle, my first instinct was to use tank controls, but it's actually the opposite. Koudelka will move in the direction from your point of view, rather than hers. So if you press up, Koudelka will walk up compared to you, not forward from her perspective. Threw me off at first, but I adapted like a true gamer and carried on. Walking off screen changes the view of the room you are in, and you see an injured man, who I thought was dead because he was painted into the background. Examining him proved me wrong and a cutscene played. Normally in a game along this premise, when you can find something you can interact with and pick up, it will stick out from the art style, because it'll be cleaner, or just it will glow, or something like that. He looks like he's painted into the background to add atmosphere, so I didn't think I had to interact with him. As you can see, the cutscenes are of the characters interacting with each other from a single perspective, most likely captured from actors in mocap suits to make the movements more lifelike. Simple as they look, considering the lack of resources Saknoff had, they are very impressive, especially if you compare them to Resident Evil where they had multiple camera angles but character models were very stiff and lifeless. So Koudelka stares at the man for a few seconds before attempting to leave. The man, still thinking she's an angel, asks her to pray for him. She says no but decides to heal him as thanks for saving her. She then orders him to come with him or she will leave him behind. And the next few lines of dialogue show Koudelka to have a bratty personality of your average Twitter user.
I'm cured.
Yeah, and so I cured you, so what? I'm no angel. I'm just a medium with a little curing. I'm not like you. And this is no place for people like you.
Koudelka reveals she's not an angel, shocker, but a medium with healing powers, and our Leon S. Kennedy ripoff over here is Edward. who has the personality of an idiot and never stops talking. He is here because... well, I'm not sure.
I heard something in London. That the son of some rich family bought an old monastery. Spent a ton of money to convert it into a house. I heard he brought quite a lot of harlots here. Seems like he was having a great time.
So, where is this monastery?
That's what I want to know. I came all this way to put a poor man's fear of God into this rich bastard. So far, I haven't found anything. Then this monster attacked me. I almost got killed.
So what, you were gonna kill him? Rob him? Sleep with the harlots? Sleep with him? Dialogue is a bit cheesy at times. In fact, for the most part, the dialogue I experienced this early in the game was mostly arguments and catty comments between the characters, with little about the plot. Also, there were a few times where the flow of the dialogue seemed quite fast, even overlapping sometimes. Koudelka and Edward team up and we begin to explore the castle fully. As you explore, you will run into monsters, and the variety of monsters is quite numerous. Almost every fight I was encountering a new creature, all of whom behaved differently and had different attack patterns. The designs of the monsters, however, varied in quality. Some were cool, others looked lazy, as some were just, what the fuck? This one I think's in the wrong game. You're on the wrong console, Kingdom Hearts is on PS2. They are easier now that I have 2 members in the party. Speaking of, let's look at the party menu. From here, you can heal injured members, check stat scores, equip weapons and armour, use items, and set the formation of the party. Ooh, fancy. Map and read are greyed out because you have to find something to read, and you have to find the map that's somewhere hidden in the monastery. But I never found it. Knowing my luck, I probably walked past it without realising. But, in my defence, in this game, it is a bit easy to miss items you can pick up sometimes. The environments, while lacking ambience, are nicely made, though they can be a little hard to navigate sometimes because of the colour scheme. A lot of dull or very dark colours can blend together everything and hide details, so you miss what is the obvious way to go. This is the second room of the game, and I thought it was a dead end. This is the door where I have to leave, but I thought it was a window, so I didn't notice it straight away. So a lot of the time you will be running around the map hitting X over and over until you find something to interact with. Don't miss fucking doing this from the Resident Evil games. Of course, doing this means you will get attacked a fair amount. On the plus side, it means XP and a chance to level up. When a character levels up, you get 4 points to assign to their attributes. I have an idea of what some of them do, but the basic premise is that these stats on the left are melee based, and these stats on the right are magic based. I have an idea of what some of these stats could mean, but what's the difference between dexterity and agility? And what does pi stand for? Looks like the R2 button's going to save the day here. So there are some unusual rules to the stat system. Starting with strength, it is used to increase your damage with melee weapons, but as the game puts it, no matter how high a character's strength is, it doesn't mean a thing unless the character can hit his or her opponent. Then the game advises you to keep strength and dexterity balanced. Looking at the dexterity gives a vice versa description. Intelligence and mind also work the same way, but for spells. Vitality increases health. Agility increases the chance of a character performing more than one attack and having their turn appear more frequently in battles, and move farther on the grid. Luck gives a vague, unhelpful description that sounds like it came out of a fortune cookie. Thanks to Google though, I found that luck determines how often and likely you are to find a rare item after a fight. Piety, or Piety, not sure how you pronounce that, is the most unusual though. It increases your resistance to magic, but if it's too high, even healing magic won't work on them. To counter it, you have to keep intelligence up. But it's a questionable design choice. I mean, it could work with people who like being tactical, but it sounds like a stupid idea on paper, but points for trying to be different. So I wander around the monastery for a while, finding items, killing monsters, and leveling up until I come to this room. Now, I do have a critique of the game here. When you walk into a room and something important happens, it will either go straight into a cutscene, or it will give you some text that describes what's happening and then play a cutscene. Like here, we see the text says there is an old couple in the room. Where? Oh, here they are. They weren't there before. I thought they could at least put a model of the couple in there, maybe just paint them in like they did with Edward at the beginning. I get that Saknoff were a small studio, but that just ruins the immersion for me. The couple we meet are Ogden and Bessie Hartman, the caretakers of the monastery. They offer you some food. Edward eats some, but Koudelka refuses. They give you a history lesson saying that the monastery was originally built to appease monsters and spirits. But around 6 months ago, monsters started appearing and their appearances became more frequent as the months went by. Am I the only one who's suspicious here? 2 old people, one is overweight, one can just about walk, have been surviving in this creepy looking monastery full of nightmares for at least 6 months? That's what we call bullshit! They spare you some bullets and send you on your way. Literally 1 room later though, another cutscene plays. Koudelka reveals to Edward that the food the old couple gave him was poisoned. As he begins to succumb to the effects, she mocks him some more while concluding that they must be hiding something. Koudelka lets him suffer for a while before curing him, with the instructions that she doesn't want him to confront the couple because it's best that they think that they are both dead, so they can freely explore the monastery. Wow, that knife is way out of proportion there, but at least I can tell I can pick it up. But why would I want a second knife when I've already got a knife? Well, now might be a good time to start talking about the weapons. There are a lot of weapons to pick up. You can find them on the ground or after battles, and they come in 10 different categories. Weapons don't have any unique skills but do increase stats differently, so finding which weapon suits each character's build you're going to give them is essential. Armour and rings can be found, but for me these were a rare find. Each weapon you find fits one of these categories, and when a character uses that category of weapon, their skill with that category increases and allows them to do more damage with weapons that fit into said category. So for example, I've got Edward here using a sword with the lifesteal perk on it, and he just leveled up his sword skill. So now, if he was to swap to a different sword, he would still get the damage bonus from his sword skill level. Not that I think Edward would change his sword though. I got lucky with this sword. Since I'm making him my tank, he can heal himself with every hit he lands. I think he's going to carry this team to victory. It broke! I was wondering why I was finding so many weapons, and that's why. Weapons can also feature an element which influences their attack, such as water, and they could also come with a speciality, like poison, so that melee attacks could also inflict magical ailments. So grinding for weapons sounds like a must. Grinding could be a bit of a challenge though. If you run out of weapons and have to resort to bare fists, you're in trouble. Thankfully, magic has the same skill leveling system to it, so you could technically grind by spamming magic each fight. Even easier knowing that any and every character can use magic, and that all the spells you know are known as a team rather than to the individual member. Once Edward is cured, you continue to walk around the monastery until you reach the greenhouse, where you find an unconscious man on the ground. Always a good sign. Checking the rest of the room, you are attacked by a giant plant. See? The text said so. First boss of the game, and it's nothing too challenging, as Koudelka is highly resistant to its magic attacks, and Edward hits things real hard. Actually, you know what? I'd say this boss is underwhelming. Its lack of difficulty and the fact that music hasn't changed from this one and only battle track it has. Really downplays the supposed threat here. To be fair though, it is the first boss and I can't expect a huge threat. Should be thankful really, because after this boss I found my first save point. 1 hour into the game. You're probably thinking that's a long ass time to go without a save. And you're right, it is. But I have also been saving the game without knowing. Sometimes when you enter a room, you will see a circled S with the room name. If you press circle when you see it, you create a quick save. It's something at least, but I wouldn't have known about this if I didn't read the instruction book first. Before you get to use the save point though, we need to interact with the unconscious man again, so we get to meet this character. Bishop James O'Flaherty, a Catholic bishop who was on the search for something, and was looking for it in the monastery to find it. They squabble for a while, then James restores the plinth to its former glory, which then becomes the save point and James joins the team. I saved the game and started wandering around again trying to find a way to advance the story. Another flaw in this game. With no clear goal, a lot of the time you will be spent running around the same rooms over and over, and without a map you could get lost easily. Gee, if only there was a way to have a map without actually finding one. By sheer luck, I went the right way and the party has yet another catty argument. At least the voice acting is okay though. I'm totally convinced they're a dysfunctional team who hate each other.
It should inspire the soul as to
Alexander Pope, George Herbert.
If they have the power to do away with these evil spirits, I'd choose anyone. Even that dear old carpenter's son.
Blasphemous! Pagan! How dare you utter such words of sin?
Guys, please, can we stop arguing? Can't we just sit down and have a nice chat over some cheese? Or as I renamed it, Healing Brie, but with Brie spelt wrong? Throughout the game, you will find items as well as weapons. You can examine them to find out what they do, but you also have the option to rename them to remind yourself what their properties are. You can also rename the weapons too, so get as silly or edgelord as you'd like. While the party is having another insult match, they suddenly come under fire and spot the shooter in the building opposite them. So now, we actually have a goal, for the first time. So I start heading over there and encounter this door that I did before while exploring. The first time I examined it, I couldn't open it because a mysterious force was keeping it shut. This time, however, I tried to do it and I'm attacked by a monster, as was foretold by the text. I can only imagine that this time is different because I now have James in the party. Could I have at least had a clue where to go after he joined? In the cutscenes that feature him, there's nothing to suggest that he has the power to banish mysterious forces. So other than a guide or blind luck, how would you have known this is where you were meant to go? This boss has some challenge to it, or rather, these bosses. They do a lot of damage while having a high resistance to yours, and in my case we're attacking Koudelka for having the lowest health. I even had my first party member go down. Thankfully, the solution to this problem was whiskey. Whiskey that brings people back from the dead? I'm officially branding that Phoenix Down whiskey. We emerged victorious though, leveled up and got a new spell, and the door was open. What lies beyond the door? Well, I'm going to leave that to you to find out, should you decide to try it for yourself. So while I have criticised it a fair amount, Koudelka is a game that does have a nice charm to it. Sure, it's got its flaws, and a few corners have been cut, but it was made by a team of highly skilled Square members who are passionate about the project, and its features do make it stand out positively amongst other RPGs. While the studio was small with limited assets, a good amount of effort and hard work was placed into the game to make it enjoyable and satisfying to experience. So, now that you've heard of it, would you play it? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching everyone, and remember, you're always welcome at the Spectrum.